Hey, everybody, we're going to pick up our conversation we started last week. So if you haven't listened to last week's episode, go back and listen to that episode, and then you can listen to this episode. This is part 2 of a 2-part series. I hope you enjoy.
Welcome to The Friday Habit with Benjamin Manley and Mark Labriola II.
The Friday Habit is for creators, entrepreneurs, and agency owners looking for actionable ideas on how to grow their business and be more profitable.
We'll pull from our combined knowledge of over 20 years and interview thought leaders that will inspire you and give you the motivation you need to kick your business into high gear. Buckle up. It's Friday.
So what did people find value, like when you were first kind of starting out, what did people find value in what you were giving? Was it just that, you knew a graphic designer or a video editor that did really great work and then you could kind of bring them in? Or what was it about what you did that was so valuable that people would want to pay?
It was aspirational. It was, you've sold to e-commerce business. Well, I want to build my e-commerce business and sell it. What'd you do? It was really that simple. And then we started executing, and then we transitioned that to, oh, wow, you've worked with these 20 companies. I want to be like them. Can you help me? Oh, wow, you grew these companies and they did really well. Can you help me? And now at this point, it's been thousands of brands. It's, I'm kind of ubiquitous, but that's how it started.
So it's almost like credibility that you built up front, partially by working with these other businesses. And then from there, how do you, I was curious about how you continue to add value over time, because I'm thinking, probably the reason a lot of those people that have those long-term contracts is they're like, hey, we know that they're not going to stick with us. They're going to cancel us as soon as there's a down month or something. So do you provide reports, or how do you prove every month, hey, we're adding lots of value, or is that something they just kind of like?
And this is where it's not as complicated as you just made it. Yes, we have to report, we have to communicate well. That's probably more critical than even doing good work, which is also critical.
Right.
But it's like being an employee, though slightly more disposable, I'd say. So if your email marketing's working and you don't have a reason to target it, you're not just going to fire them 2 months in. You don't want to do that. That's a pain. Who's going to do it then? So when we get fired, it's because people find alternatives or have reasons to leave. And don't get me wrong, there are also plenty of people that hire us on month to month. They're way too sold on that idea, and they come in for a month and leave, and great. It's opening your doors to your store and going ha ha, you did nothing. Congratulations, you just wasted our time and yours. But it happens. We do try to set expectations at a time for that. But other than that, no, we just when we get fired, it's either the business is struggling, or we're not meshing well, or some, there's a bunch of other factors, but it's, and then a lot of people do hire us for short term because they want to try bringing certain things in house and things change. And also we're dealing with a lot of first time entrepreneurs that make really poor decisions sometimes. And we are dealing with that too. But because this is how we built our business, it's part of the business model, and we know how to work with that.
Cool.
So then would you say that was e-commerce kind of your initial target because you were working on the tea company, things like that? And so was that kind of...
I'd say it was less target and more network. Most of my business for a long time was just in my network. People referring me, you should talk to these guys. You should talk to these guys. And it just started to grow from there. And I was an e-commerce leader. So I had a lot of peers in the space. I had a lot of friends of peers, and then it just grew from there. So that's always been a big part of our business because it's where we started and where I started.
Yeah. So then how, when you started fleshing out this idea as far as being all right, we are going to be a marketing department for a company, how did you, kind of work your way into companies that maybe were more established or that already had marketing departments and whatnot? Obviously, if you're working with an entrepreneur or some small brand, right, they need all that help. But if you're working with maybe a larger brand or bigger company, did you ever run into people feeling threatened by, their boss hiring you or things like that?
Generally, and it still happens, it's generally the most insecure marketing leaders are threatened by us. And when we use the term outsourced CMO, there are insecure CMOs that go, you're not taking my job. Fuck. We've had literally CMOs say, fuck you. I'm not going to talk to you guys. You're trying to take my job. They're that insecure. Good luck. I don't want to work with them anyways. Right. And thank God there's plenty of business out there. Mostly the vast majority understand it, are, understand the value of what we're talking about, and it doesn't turn them off. And the few that do are exactly who I don't want to work with. So we debated it at times because we got a little bit of negative feedback, and we're like, no, but that's exactly who I don't want as a client, is that insecure asshole that can't get over his head, doesn't think rationally, and just goes, oh God, like that's not what you want to work with as a marketer.
Right. So then, as far as, you started out with you and a handful of your friends, that you started working, and each one of those people had maybe different skills that you didn't have, so that you could kind of offer like a full package, to sell essentially. So then as you started to grow, what did that look like as far as, when you'd hire or, bring on a new client that maybe needed, digital marketing, and you weren't doing that? Did you then go out and find somebody and hire somebody to do digital marketing for you? Or like, you obviously grew from very small to a very large, employee count. So, how did that all
Yeah, it was super
evolve?
reactive. And every time we tried to get proactive is when we got fucked up. So meaning like, oh, we're probably going to get to here, so we should anticipate it and hire ahead. It was just like, no, we need this now, get it now. And so that's where we've done well. And it's, we have too many email clients, we need a second one. Oh, now we have too many email clients, we need a third. Now we have too many email marketers, we need a manager. Let's promote one of them. Like, it's just started. It was, again, just, I spend a lot of my time with other entrepreneurs and exposing myself to how businesses operate. And thankfully, my business, part of our job is to learn how other businesses operate.
Yeah.
And you start to pull a lot from there and go, oh, okay, so this makes sense. And then again, it's about that sort of logical deduction of like, hey, every time a manager exceeds 7 people, they seem like their hair is on fire. So why don't we just cut it off at 7? Like, if you're a manager, you get 7 people or less. The moment we have 8, we need 2 managers. Like, let's just do that. And so those are the kind of things that we started to look at. As like, how many people can someone manage in different roles? And then, and you over time, you improve and tweak and tweak and tweak. And then now we're almost 8 years into this, and 270 people. And we've got, some systems in place over time. And I will say one of the biggest frustrating things is, systems also break. You'll put something together, and then all of a sudden you've added 100 people and none of them knew about the system, and they stop following it, and you have to restart, and you have to, or create a new system because it doesn't work at scale. But so it's a constant moving target. There's no finish line, but you just constantly ebb and flow. And my business partner used to articulate it. It feels less now this way than it used to, but it's like walking an elephant down a narrow path where you're just like dodging back and forth and like, oh, no, go a little to the left. No, a little to the right. And you're like trying to like keep it on path while it's constantly fucking up. And like, that is how it felt at times. Now it's a lot more stable now, but that was probably the first 6 years of business like that.
Yeah. Was there a point in your business where it felt like, man, you're chugging along, and then there was something in particular that you felt like the rocket fuel hit and you guys were like, boom, it just like connected?
No, it's incremental steps along the way. So it's, people think of it as like either a growth curve or a linear growth. And ours was more like a staircase, flat line up. And it's a bit different, it happened every few months to every year, whatever that is.
Yeah.
We'll be stuck at a certain revenue cap and just churning along in there. And then all of a sudden, boom, we'll break through into a new strategy works, and it adds enough revenue to break through that. And it's just constantly figuring out what's that next breakthrough you need to have while maintaining all the other shit that you did.
Right. When growing, the company, how did you determine, this is something I'm always curious about, like, because we have a small team, but right now it's kind of like how I'm hiring people is based off of like, okay, can we afford to hire another person? Like if we bring on another client, then I have, maybe I need to bring on 2 clients to hire 1 person, so like, what does that look like? What kind of advice would you give, or, experience that you have as far as like growing your team so that you obviously the company can afford it and also, be profitable?
Yeah, it's manage your financials. I mean, you got to be a numbers person to run a business, and you have to like actually watch like what is your gross margin on your execution? How much does it cost you to service a client versus how much you make, and make sure you have the right margins. And different agencies have different margins, so there's not really a right answer there. It depends on how you operate, but you have to build a business model after a little while. You can't just fly by the seat of your pants. If it's something you want to scale, you have to build a model and project out, what does this look like if we're 1,000 people, 10,000 people? And then in terms of hiring, the more, every agency is different there too. The more predictable your revenue is, the better. And you just have to figure out, like, again, I'm a fan of not hiring ahead. I'd rather teach my people and tell my people there's going to be times where the workload's going to get a little much until we can hire some people to support you, versus hiring ahead and not hitting your targets and now having to fire people. So
Yeah.
and that's kind of the alternative. So that's, how we've consistently built it, is through that, is like modeling. And now we have really predictable, we have very, very predictable revenue and projections and all that. And we know kind of where we're going. So we're able to get ahead of it.
When you first started, were you kind of like the jack of all trades, essentially? Like, did you kind of just dabble in everything, or was there a particular medium that you kind of focused on and then expanded as you grew?
So very, very early, one of my first hires became my business partner. So he was originally our first fractional CMO. He was the guy that ran the music company for 3 years after I left. Was our first CMO because he had run digital businesses, knew how to advise there. Then he quickly became my quote unquote director of operations because he was just managing everyone else because he was had to report against their work. And so he just started managing the team and basically said, you go grow it, you go get new deals, go be the guy out there building this, and I'll be the one that helps on delivery. And that's how we started. And then, he became a partner, and then he became a much more significant partner a year and a half later, where when it was like, we looked back and I was like, yeah, no, you've been my partner. And so from there, as he put it, I made promises and he delivered on them. So my job was to be out and about all the time. I was at a different event every night. I was constantly talking to new prospects. And in 3.5 years into the business, we were, 7 million run rate, probably 60 people or something. And I was still driving about 85% of our sales by myself.
Wow.
And then that's when we transitioned and I started building out a better sales team and figuring out how I couldn't, basically said, I can't be the salesperson anymore.
Right. So then, go ahead, Ben.
I was just going to say, I was curious what your kind of day-to-day looks like right now, how your responsibilities kind of break down, how much you get into details with certain clients or projects internally, and how you kind of split that time up.
Yeah, I try not to get as much details anymore because I've got an incredible executive team. I just brought on a COO 2 months ago that is responsible for basically managing the day-to-day. And so he's only 4 months in with the consulting. And so I'm still staying involved to make sure that he catches things I would normally catch because there's a lot of nuance. But about a third of my time is with that team, on strategy and figuring out hey, here's a new idea to how to build out marketing. Here's figuring out a place to grow. About a third of my time is actually on expansion, M&A, our venture fund, our financing arm, other initiatives in the company, whether it's new channels we can launch, new territories. I'm looking at international expansion. We just opened in Canada. We're looking at China and Singapore and UK and all over the place. So that's a lot of the new exploratory stuff is on me. And then about a third of my time is on promotional, being on a podcast, writing a book, waving the flag, beating the drum, basically.
That's awesome. So, what's this idea as far as how does someone know when they're ready to outsource their marketing? What happens internally where someone's like, all right, I need to hire someone or bring somebody in?
So my view is if you're a brand, you shouldn't hire anyone until you got about 10 grand a month to spend on marketing, at least. Because if you, and consistently, because if not, you haven't built your business yet. And as a founder, you need to be able to get it there. I'm pretty adamant about that. If you can't drive 10 grand a month in profit yourself.
Now, what's that number? Why is 10 grand okay, if you can't spend 10 grand a month?
It's a round number, but it's a number. Maybe it's 9, maybe it's 11, but it's a ballpark. And so to me, it's around there that you have enough ammo to actually hire someone and still have some have a war chest for them. Because you hire someone for 5 grand a month, it's 60 grand person, let's say, and then you have no other budget. What the fuck are they doing all day? You think they're gonna do a better job growing than you are? You've given them no resources. So, it's somewhere around that 10 grand a month. It's enough to start looking at some options. And I see a lot of people jump the gun. I have $500. Who can do my SEO? You're not going to get any return for that. It's a stupid thing to do. So take that $500, keep it in your pocket, go out and sell a few people. Go make another $1,000. If you can't do that with your business, you're the wrong founder. That's my view. And we even put it when we invest, we look for companies that have gotten to 20 grand a month in revenue on their own before we invest. And so that's the first part of that. I'd say you start there. And then in terms of outsourcing versus in-housing, there's 3 issues with bringing people in-house. Number 1, getting good talent. If your company isn't one of the sexiest startups out there or some Fortune 2000 that's amazing, what type of person, you have to be real with yourself sometimes. Like, who's joining your team? Are they really the best marketer out there that gives you the best opportunity? And there's a line I heard a long time ago. If you want to win a Super Bowl, build a team of people that have already won a Super Bowl. Like, that's a really easy way to do it. You see it in NBA all the time too. Like, championship teams are built by a bunch of guys that have won championships. A lot. It happens a lot. It was the Warriors. It was the Heat. It's, I guess, the Lakers. Like, it's all these teams bring in a bunch of people, and that's how they do it. So same thing in business. You want to win, get the winners. You see it with the best funded tech companies. The people they're recruiting, their CFO came from this company that IPO'd for this, and like they're grabbing people that are winners. Same thing goes with your marketing. If you want to be a winner, you have to hire people that have won. And when you've got 10 grand a month in marketing spend, who are you attracting that is actually going to be a winner? And that's the problem with in-housing early on, in my opinion, versus an agency. And it's a shameless plug, but at the same time, the exact reason I built the company is that's why we exist. Is we've done this. We've taken companies from zero to billions of dollars, and yet on principle and how we've built our agency is we still want to work with up and coming brands. It's fun for us. It's why we exist. It's our purpose. And so we continue to bring Fortune 500 marketing to the masses in the sense. And that is something that we're not the only ones. And that is something that I think is important. So I think with the right partner, assuming you don't run into the 99% of agencies that are full of shit, outsourcing in the beginning is probably the move. And then over time, you can probably attract some good people that you can bring some of it in-house. And then the smartest marketers I know this is true. And anyone that would argue it, I would say is not a good marketer. It is a balance. It's not binary. You want some in-house and some outsourced all the time, because we're always going to have a better view of the forest from the trees. We're going to know what's going on in the industry. We have all our benchmarking data and everything that we know what's affecting. We're getting better treatment from all the platforms. We're getting certain discounts that you'll never get. We have certain talent you'll never attract. And we're cost effective. Like, you're not like, good luck hiring one of our email marketers for, under 3 times the price. And do they really want to come work for your brand if you're not one of the top startups out there? No. So these are things that we can benefit from. On the other side, there are definitely things that are better held internally and strategically, and that changes over the cycle of the business. It could be social media management at some points. It could be your email marketing, but not all the time. And it, again, depends on what you're able to attract. It could be your content creation, maybe, if you're a good content creator, can get one. Because if you can't, making bad content is a waste of fucking time too. So it just depends on your access too, but over time, that ebbs and flows and changes.
What's the average price range to interact, with an agency like yours? I mean, is there a range from like, $2,000 to $100,000 a month? Like, what does that look like?
Ballpark. I mean, we have a few bigger than that, but yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So it's kind of like you'll take anybody who's a good fit, for the agency.
Yeah, on principle, we try not to be the gatekeeper. That's like our mission is accessibility to great marketing for everyone. That is what we're striving for, is like, how do we make this accessible, but also become the best at what we do? So why I say that is we still need to price accordingly to be able to service a client. We still need to do certain things that allow us to also be great. But we want, that balance of great and accessible is always what we're teetering on, and making sure that we're also easy to work with and flexible and cost effective.
Yeah. I was curious, did you get married pretty young, or do you have kids? How does that look?
No kids. I met my wife a month after I started the company.
Okay.
We dated for 3.5 years, got engaged after 3.5 years, got married after 5 years. Okay. And so we've been married to almost 3 years.
Okay. But been together, and she pretty supportive as a partner,
thankful, more than supportive. She's an enabler in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
She's also a senior exec at a big private equity fund. So it was always a mutual respect of the hustle, so to speak. And she works, at times harder than I do. And I'm still at the company known to be the hardest working guy here today. Like, we both work our butts off and enjoy it. But now working from home's fun, because she's like, if I have a 10-minute break, I can walk inside and hang out with my wife for a while. Good news is we like each other. COVID hit, we got stuck together, and it's worked out. So
what with speaking of COVID, how did that affect you guys? Did you have a physical location, like a big office and whatnot? And then how has that affected you, and what kind of decisions have you made, to kind of pivot and move forward?
Yeah, so we've got a massive office almost exactly a year before COVID hit. We put millions of dollars into it. It was costing us $1.5 million a year to rent. plus all the TIs and stuff we had put into it. And we went home and left it empty. And after about 3 months, I saw my team was stressed out because working remote was not a problem for us. Our clients were almost always remote anyways. So it's just like all of a sudden they just weren't sitting next to each other too. And we had to all use Google Hangouts, which we all used all day anyways. So it was like, no big deal. We didn't miss a beat. Business was affected slightly in the beginning of COVID, but not really. And we were like, we had a record month in June of 2020. So we lost 25% of our clients in April of 2020, but we replaced 10% of those. So we dipped about 15%, recovered in May, record month in June. So like in the time, just to be clear, the first 2 weeks of COVID were like the most stressful 2 weeks of my fucking life. I didn't know when that bleeding would stop. Now, looking back, obviously hindsight's 2020, everyone that was going to fired us right away. Most people, it wasn't going to trickle in for 6 months. Like that's not how this was going to work. It was going to be like, shit's shut down, we're done, or not. So I wasn't sure if I was seeing a trend or a one-time event, and that's what caused stress. After a couple of weeks, we got the PPP, we did all that stuff, and we were like, okay, we're solid at least for the next 3 months. Who knows what the fuck's going to happen to the world, but we're going to be okay, at least for now. So once that subsided, then again, July hit, and I was like, well, we're now working remote fine. Everyone's stressed out about, are we ever going back to the office? When are we going back? So why not make this easy? Let's do a vote. Who wants to go back? 84% said never. And so, I shouldn't say never. So they didn't want to be in the office even the majority of the time, meaning like we might want to be in an office one day a week. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to own a fucking office for 1 day. So,
Right.
So we got rid of it. And it took us a year, frankly, to get out of that lease. And we had 4 years left on it. So we still saved 3 years, which was great savings. Saved $1.5 million a year right there.
Right.
So we got rid of that. And then, I'd say a year later, this summer, things started to open up a little bit. People started feeling more comfortable. And that's when some people were like, hey, we want to work together more. We want to have a chance to get together. And we were able to secure a deal with WeWork that was really reasonable. And so we got our entire staff WeWork passes. The problem is, and not for WeWork, just in general, when we said go, hey, we're going remote, do whatever you want, we meant it. But now instead of 90% of our team being in LA, 30% of our team's in California as a whole, the rest is in 40 different states. So and in Canada and in China. So, and in Philippines. So there, and probably other places that I don't know about, because I know sometimes I found out one of our employees was working from Jamaica for a little while. So, and by the way, awesome. Like the cool thing is it's exactly as great as it sounds because they're all getting their shit done. And thankfully we work in a business where they've got plenty of bosses other than me. If they're not doing a good job, we'll hear about it. So as long as they're doing their work and they're doing a great job, then I want them to live well. Go take that. Like my brother is 9 years younger than me. And so a lot of his friends are like more the younger employees at our company. And he was telling me when COVID hit and we sent everyone home, and he's like, some of your team's hanging out at the beach, like middle of the day, just going to the beach. I'm like, yeah. And their clients are happy. So good for them. Go power to them. And so we've tried to create an environment where that allows for all that. And it's been working. Like our employee satisfaction's way up. We've seen way less employee churn this year than we have the past couple of years, which is ironic, seeing that the Great Resignation happened this year. We've seen some of that, but just no.
Yeah.
But a lot of the other stuff we used to lose people for, like people seem happy. And I'm on a lot of calls with our team, and they just seem like, for the most part, they're enjoying it. And they've now, the people that didn't like the change of like being remote and all this have left. And we're even getting more boomerangs, as we call it, than ever before. A lot of people leaving for other jobs and calling us back going, can I please come back? And if they leave on good terms, we do welcome it.
Yeah. Wow, that's really great. Well, tell us a little bit about your new book that's coming out and what it's about and where people can get it and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so it's cool because I think, so basically we wrote a book. We have this whole marketing thesis and methodology around how we manage marketing, how we assess companies' marketing that we have been using since we built Hawke, and we use it for ourselves. We drink our own punch. And it actually has helped me over and over again assess what's wrong with the company and what's wrong with our own company, and then dive in deeper. And so basically just got help from a ghostwriter and dictated and took 2 years to put together a book of putting all that was in our head and the methodology we've created and putting it into words. And it's now pre-launched. So Hawke Method is what we're calling it. HawkeMethod.com, HAWKE method. And for the listeners that want to see how we think about marketing, it's helpful. But also for agencies that want to see how to position yourselves in the way you think about things, I think it can be helpful too, because we've basically turned our marketing theories into now a book that it's being. We've got several universities now picking it up for their marketing majors. Like we've put it out there and it's 200 pages, easy read. Like it's a small 200-page book, meaning like not a textbook.
Yeah.
And so the idea is it's a conversational language. It's easy to read. It's got a lot of narrative. And it's how we think about marketing we've grown over 3,000 brands successfully at this point. So
That's awesome. That's cool. So is that on pre-order? Where can people get it?
Yeah, hawkemethod.com. And our goal is to sell, we got to pre-sell 20,000 copies to guarantee it, or not to guarantee, but to have a solid shot at the New York Times bestseller, which is the goal. So we've got till February to sell 20,000 copies. So looking forward to getting them out there.
Yeah, for sure.
It's the new challenge of the day, so to speak. It's fun.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Well, hey, thanks so much for being on the Friday Habit. This has been a very enjoyable conversation. I feel like I learned a lot. What we like to do is we kind of like to recap our conversation for our listeners. And Ben is a fantastic note taker. And so, Ben, what do you have for us as far as our top, takeaways?
Well, you interrupted me. I was in the middle of pre-ordering the book, but I'll continue after I give you the the takeaways. Yeah. No, it looks awesome, and I really enjoyed the conversation. I feel like you had you obviously have a lot of great methods that are really working for you guys and for other businesses. So I'm really excited to check out your book. Just a couple. I took a lot of notes. I'll just boil it down here. A couple things that stood out to me. I love what you said, that if you don't have difficult challenges, the wins don't feel as good. I.e., if you don't get dirty and cold in the woods, then showers aren't that great. You have to be a numbers person. You have to be a numbers person to run a successful business. I've seen that over and over. Like the people that really seem to thrive, love the numbers. It's like a game, and they like figuring out the numbers. You said build a model, then project it out, and project it out to see what it looks like if you get bigger, so you can kind of see if the model that you're creating now is actually scalable, which makes a lot of sense. You also mentioned if you want to win the Super Bowl, build a team of people who have won the Super Bowl before.
There you have it. Hey, if you could leave our listeners maybe with one action item, we kind of like to leave people with something. Hey, this next week, focus on this. What would that one thing be that you would leave our audience with?
The action item is go figure out what your sales or purchase cycle is, because I've seen the vast majority of people have no idea from the first time you introduce someone to your brand, they see an advertisement, they come in contact with your brand, to the time they purchase. Most people cannot tell you how long that period is on average, and is the most important thing you need to know in marketing, because as you spend on marketing, you need to watch that cycle to actually know what the returns are. You need to be nurturing the people throughout that period. That is literally number one to me, is that purchase cycle. People miss all the time. People have gotten way too direct response oriented and think that you spend money today, you make money today. So learn your purchase cycle so you can actually ascertain how things are going.
Got it.
That's fantastic. All right. Hey, you guys, thanks so much for tuning in. Go to thefridayhabit.com to find show notes for this episode. There you can also find links to our websites and ways to get in touch. And at the bottom of the page, you can download our guide to the Friday Habit system that'll show you how to set aside one full day each week dedicated to working on your business instead of in your business.
And if you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and leave us a review in the Apple Podcast app. And if you have any questions or a topic you'd like us to cover, don't forget to record us a quick voice memo and send it to hello@thefridayhabit.com.
That's right. And until next time, live every day like it's Friday.